So I have three questions for the next hour, right? Why do undergrad research? Why you want to be part of a multidisciplinary team? And why it matters for the future. I think the last question is actually the most important one that we need to tackle today. So I post these three questions up there. I'm not going to answer them. I'm going to interact with you and get the answer out of you. So I like science styles, pretty much in your face, interactive. I'm same style, so there's no getting away from me. So I'm going to walk around the room and try to interact with you and get some discussion going. Because this is very important, and I'm going to show you why this is so important to answer these three questions. So first question, how many of us here, besides doing the MDP, are also enrolled in 199 doing undergrad research? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3.
299 grad research.
Perfect. That included 199 or 299? Everyone in the first row, you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very good. All right, those who raise your hand, tell us why you do 199. Anyone?
Gives you it gives you hands-on experience and exposure to something you're going to be doing later, and it also it's a way for. I'm studying biomedical engineering, so it's a way for me to learn more about that and see what I'm actually learning and apply it to something.
Okay, so you want to get some hands-on experience to get ready for something you're going to do in the future, and to learn about biomedical engineering. Okay, so by the way, Bianca is biomedical engineering. There are some others who are from different disciplines as well. Okay, very good. More answers? Yes?
I'm not enrolled in 199, but I am a research assistant for future project. The reason I'm not enrolled in 199 is because I'm not a student here, and that will cost me a fortune. But I'm doing the work nonetheless.
Okay.
The reason I'm doing the research is because I was interested in applying to grad school. And I wasn't sure if I want to do clinical or research-based. And for a layperson, psychology related, it's always about clinical psychology, and that's what I'm interested in. But I also wanted to rule out that I'm not ruling out research just because I'm not exposed to it. So I'm exposing myself to research and see if that's something that I could explore later on. So that was my interest.
Okay, so you want to, again, get some research experience, to get some exposure in that area, to sort of help you decide whether research or clinical work down the road. Okay, very good. Anybody else?
I guess I'm researching, and I can echo exactly what's already been said, is as much as I wanted to research to look into new areas of biomedical engineering, and research in itself is exciting, but it's also just as important to me to figure out, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Or when I'm exposed to this certain environment, is this what I want to thrive in until I'm old and gray? And so it was just as important to me not only to research and to progress knowledge, but to learn myself, is this what I want to do?
Okay, so in addition to getting excited about the research topic in itself, you also want to figure out whether this is something you want to do for the rest of your life. Okay, good. Yes, please.
I agree with all the reasons everybody has given so far, but I would like to give a less goal-oriented sort of future reason. Also, research is awesome. Research is fun. In the here and now, day to day, what we're doing is really engaging and really fascinating. And so, of course, I'm aware that I want to have a career as a researcher. So there's that aspect. But there's also the aspect of just the day-to-day grind, which, you put a lot of hours in, but I find it very rewarding immediately as well as long-term.
Mm-hmm. So you enjoy the moment.
I enjoy the moment.
You like to get your hands dirty in the lab, clean and just enjoy doing the stuff right now, discovery, having passion for doing what you do today. And in addition to worrying about the future as well. Okay, very good. Anybody else like to contribute? Okay, good. So let's move on to the next one. Now, you can do research all by yourself. You can go to an advisor and say that I'd like to participate in your lab, give me a task, and I'll do it. Right? You can hide your lab, do all your work all by yourself. And sometimes you talk to your professor, sometimes you talk to your graduate students or other team member, but basically you're doing it all by yourself. Why do all of us here sign up for a team-based activities, but particularly a multidisciplinary team? Why do you sign up for it? Why do you get excited about it? Yes?
I think it's really good practice for actual application in the real world. Because whenever any job, you're going to be working with different people from different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So it's more of real life, what you're going to be dealing with. So.
A team environment is what you think would be the real life after you graduate. And,
oh yeah, definitely.
And you want to work in a team to get ready for the team-based activities down the road.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Anybody else? Yes.
I think a team is important because you have different people with different ideas, and so you can attack the same problem through different angles, because your ideas might not always be the best, and so having other opinions allows you to attack the problem from different angles.
Okay, so you like the team idea because you probably think that other people may have different ideas and might be better, and we all come together and do a better job in doing the project or the research. Okay, anybody else?
I think Matt, just adding on what you said, what Eric said, people think differently, but some people think more. Some people are more like problem-based solvers. Some people think more emotionally, and sometimes that's important for a project, especially when your project has ethical concerns. Some you might be able to say, okay, this is going to work because of these reasons, and like this will solve the problem. While some people be like, okay, but the thing is, I feel like other people might feel a certain way about this project, and therefore they might not like it, and this is why it might fail. Or like maybe these are some ways we should tackle this problem so that it's more ethically, ethically correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so working in a team, you cover that base as well. Whereas engineers tend to focus more on the technology, but you also want to be concerned about the ethical issue related with the technology as well. Okay, so that's why we want to work in a team. Every one of us should have a reason of why you're here doing the MDP, and you got selected to do the MDP because we feel that you're the right candidate to do the MDP. So every one of us here should have a reason, right? And we have heard quite a few. Anybody so want to contribute additional insight into why you want to be here? Yes?
Well, I'm a curious fellow. I like learning new skills and learning new things. And one of the pluses of working with a multidisciplinary team is you have other people with different skill sets, and they have their own body of research that you could have instead of just reading about their skill set, you can actually talk to them about it. And for example, one of the MDP team I'm helping out with, the mobile learning team, I got to know a bit about how they do user testing. And also getting to know like other people's body of research also gives you new ideas for your own research body. Like, for example, programmers, we think so much about our technology, we don't even consider user testing, so it's always it's really helpful to be near people who do something that's outside of your body, research body.
So in the process, you'll probably learn something maybe even beyond the project itself. By talking to other team members who come from different backgrounds, you learn about what they're doing, and then give you some insight into tackling maybe future projects as well. Okay, Nigel.
I guess I have a few reasons why I'm here. I guess one would be this was the first opportunity given to me in which we engaged on our own idea, from concept to design to manufacturing almost. Whereas where I've researched before in a few labs, it was more I was doing work for somebody else, and I was engaging with the entire lab to get my ideas out. And I guess even being in a multidisciplinary team now, and I guess our whole team is generally BMEs, even that gives us different aspects of mindsets, because I know Long, he wants to go to law school, and that he's helping us cover the business aspects. He's also doing the chemistry portion of our thing. And I'm kind of doing more of the mechie, the design, SolidWorks. Natasha kind of does the project management. Patrick does the manufacturing, molding, all that. And Vlad kind of like feasibility physics. So it kind of, even though we're all studying the same major, we're all looking forward to different aspects of life later on the road. So it kind of helps build on our product, kind of our team.
So intentionally go after people from different training, different background to form your team, even someone from law school to help you with the teamwork. Okay, that's very good, right? Okay, so anybody else? You should all have at least one reason why you're here. I'm going to start picking on the quiet ones. Tell me your name and tell me why.
My name is Chantal, and I wanted to do multidisciplinary research because I like being able to kind of like interact with other people and get ideas from other people. So I think you could really learn a lot from just even someone who is, like they're saying, in the same major that has like a slightly different perspective on it, and it could sometimes be that little thing that clicks in your head or gives you the great idea.
So you like the interaction with other people and maybe get some idea, sparks from talking to different people. Right, very good. You look like a quiet one, so I'm going to pick on you. Tell me your name and tell me why you're here.
My name's Katie, and I think the most exciting thing about the project is getting to work with people from different departments, and kind of like, because they have like different points of view to you, and you get to learn from them.
So in your team, how many other departments are? Which department are you from?
I'm from civil engineering.
Civil, okay.
And there's people from like electrical engineering and chemical engineering.
Yeah. So far, what have they brought to the table that you found fascinating?
They just like kind of think differently and like, know different, like have expertise in different areas to know stuff. So
Okay. So maybe a double E guy, gal, bringing his or her training in the W area that fascinates you.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you for your contribution, and I'm going to do that throughout the next 45 minutes. So be alert, right? I'm hearing several things in common. Number one, I think it's fair to say that all those who have contributed ideas look beyond the here and now, right? So number one, you're looking at getting some experience. You're trying to use that experience to benefit you down the road, like finding out whether research is what you want to do for your future, finding out whether this is something you want to continue for the rest of your life, or finding out whether the skills you pick up now can be used down the road. Okay, so most of us here, I would say almost all of us here are looking beyond the here and now. And number two, you are looking at the here and now. You enjoy the process, you have passion for doing what you're doing now, you enjoy interacting with others, you enjoy the sparks that other people with different background can bring to the table, and you enjoy all these stuff now. Okay, there's no other reasons, right? You're looking at beyond the here and now, you're looking at the here and now. Could there be a third reason? The food, okay, yeah. Thanks for being candid, yeah. Do you think your past play a role in what you're doing today? Some heads nodding. Tell us, why do you agree your past play a role in deciding what you're doing today?
I think the past shapes who we are in a sense. I mean, there's always the nature versus nurture argument. You know, maybe I was meant to do this, but in a sense, I think the experiences I've had, the professors that have taught me, the students I've interacted with, the friends that I've made, have shaped my experiences to lead me towards research and to lead me towards having, you know, multidisciplinary friends, multidisciplinary ideas floating around me, and to have that environment and not grasp it would be foolish. And so really delving into this research, I think it's so important to keep in mind that we should always be open to that environment of different ideas, not just yourself, but working together as a team. It's all about listening to others and finding out what the best solution to the problem is. And I think the environment around you is really, you know, from the past moving to the future is really what shapes you.
Mm-hmm. So being at UC Irvine gives you that benefit of being in that environment that sort of nurture you to move you forward to finally decide to do what you're doing today.
Definitely.
Okay. Chase?
Well, I mean, there's a couple ways, you know, I was thinking about when you asked this question of really like what does the past, you know, how does that influence, and in the strictest sense, you know, the past is, well, you know, look at what you did in middle school. You were a good student, so you did, you know, harder classes in high school. You did well, and then you made it to UCI, and empirically, oh, you did well in school. Now you're here. So that's how, you know, one reason the past can bring you to where you are is yes, you had to do things in the past. You know, you had to succeed, or you tried to succeed and failed, and now you're where you are. But then additionally, like, you know, not just what you've done, but what has happened to you in the past. You know, were you, you know, did you have a certain medical condition when you were a child that made you want to be a doctor? Did you witness something that made you think, you know, maybe in the future I could solve this problem? Did your parents come home one day and say, you know we're going to move to this new location, and because of that new location you learn, you know, new experiences, and those past experiences definitely they have to shape you into who you are, because if you don't let them shape you, then you're really just kind of like a blob. If you don't let the past influence you, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in other words, we all have our own past, we have our own upbringing. The point is to embrace it. Understand your upbringing, understand where you come from, embrace it and let it shape you and help you make decisions for the here and now, and also for the future as well. Okay, well put. There are a couple of others, people who nod their head as well and agree that the past influence you. Yes, please.
Me?
You, yes.
I was going to say something about the last question, if that's okay. Sorry, just thought
Sure,
that.
yeah, of course, yeah.
I was going to say another reason why multidisciplinary research is so useful is some questions just impossible to solve it if you just stick to a certain discipline. Mm-hmm. So for example, the research we're doing right now is we're looking at the mitochondrial sequence of, you know, this is genome sequence of people from all different backgrounds, and this is thousands of different SNPs and genes that there's no way we cannot look at it from the perspective of scientists, just like a biologist. We have to go through the computer science people and get their help in order to be able to, you know, tackle that problem that we're trying to, like, we're hypothesizing. And I thought that was, like, there's impossible. Some questions are impossible to answer just sticking to one strict perspective. So that was relevant.
So impossibility is a perception, right? So you're saying that, oh, I'm thinking that this is impossible. But then if you have a team environment, you have other people coming in and actually suggesting solutions and different approaches, all of a sudden it's not impossible anymore, right? Is it what you're trying to say?
That's one way to look at it, but also it's just that we neurobiologists or biologists don't have the skills to go through thousands of genetic sequences, whereas a computer science person might have, and collaborating will get us there. That's kind of what I mean by impossibility, but what you said also applicable, definitely.
All right, good, thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
I think just adding on to Chase that I really agree. But another viewpoint that I have is I think we're really shaped by our past in the sense that the way we react, the way we learn, the way we solve problems is really influenced by how we our weaknesses in the past and how we choose to deal with those weaknesses. For example, when I was younger, I wasn't good at solving like word problems. I wasn't good at solving critical problems. So one thing what happened was my mom recognized that, and what she did was during my free time, she would give me all sorts of word problems involving math and like science and stuff. And so as a result of that, I think that's really what pushed me towards doing engineering today, because even though like I was really weak at it as a kid, it was something that my mom recognized, and as a result, I was able to fight for it, and it has become one of my greatest strengths.
right? You have a very nurturing parent. That helps a lot in shaping our here and now from our upbringing. That's very important.
Yeah, and also I think the way we deal with weaknesses, the way we choose to confront it, the way we choose to kind of attack our weaknesses instead of just letting it run over us is, I guess, just a way that we build character. And through that, it makes conquering other weaknesses like easier and easier as we grow older.
Okay, very good. All right, I'd like to thank all of you for the contribution. One thing too seems like obvious, but I have to say it. It's very obvious to all of us, but it's better to say it out now than to try to figure out what we are trying to do. We are building memory today, and the here and now today will become your past tomorrow. So if we have this mentality that our past influences the here and now today, it would benefit us to recognize it and embrace it, because the here and now today will become your past tomorrow, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. So what you do here today would influence you in the future, just like what you have experienced 10 years ago are influencing you now. So we must embrace this entire process of constantly thinking about who we are, where we came from, and use those that shape the here and now today, and use it as a trajectory to help shape our future. That's why it's so important to ask all these questions. Why? It's because by understanding the reason behind it, we can have a better trajectory for our future. No one can predict what the future is going to look like, but you can decide for yourself. You can make the choice for yourself what your future is going to look like. All right? That's the obvious part. The not obvious part is your own personal experience that shape you and bring you up all to this point today. I'd like you to keep that in mind. All right? Your past, your here and now, and your future. And I'd like to show you a video clip. How many of you have heard of a guy named Daniel Pink? P-I-N-K, Pink, the color pink. That's his last name, Daniel Pink. Nobody heard of him? Okay, so I'm going to show you a pretty fast-paced video clip. And I'd like you to, while you're watching the video clip, keep in mind the stuff that we have talked about, your past, your present, and your future. And then after the video clip finish, I'm going to interact with you to ask about your reaction to that in light of what we have talked about. Can I turn on the sound?
I think it's on.
It's on? Okay. You can hear it?
Our motivations are unbelievably interesting. I mean, I've been working on this for a few years, and I just find the topic still so amazingly engaging and interesting. So I want to tell you about that. The science is really surprising. The science is a little bit freaky, okay? We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think. There's a whole set of unbelievably interesting studies. I want to give you two that call into question this idea that if you reward something, you get more of the behavior you want. If you punish something, you get less of it. So let's go from London to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the northeastern part of the United States. And let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges and they said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay? So if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, if you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize. Okay? We've seen this movie before. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers, we ignore the low performers, and the other folks kind of in the middle. Okay, get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test, they have these incentives, here's what they found out. One, as long as the task involved only mechanical skill, bonuses worked as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better the performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance? How can that possibly be? Now what's interesting about this is that these folks here who did this are all economists, two at MIT, one at the University of Chicago, one at Carnegie Mellon, okay? Top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics, which is that the higher the reward, the better the performance. And they're saying that once you get above rudimentary cognitive skill, it's the other way around. Which seems like this kind of, the idea that these rewards don't work that way seems vaguely left-wing and socialist, doesn't it? It's kind of this kind of weird socialist conspiracy. For those of you who have those conspiracy theories, I want to point out the notoriously left-wing socialist group that financed the research, the Federal Reserve Bank. So this is the mainstream of the mainstream coming to a conclusion that's quite surprising. It seems to defy the laws of behavioral physics. So this is strange. It's strange finding. So what do? They say, this is freaky. Let's go test it somewhere else. Maybe that $50 or $60 prize isn't sufficiently motivating for an MIT student, right? So let's go to a place where $50 is actually more significant relatively, right? So let's take the experiment. We're going to go to Madurai, India, rural India, where $50, $60, whatever the number was, is actually a significant sum of money. So they replicated the experiment in India roughly as follows. Small rewards, the equivalent of 2 weeks' salary. Small performance, low performance, 2 weeks' salary. Medium performance, about a month's salary. High performance, about 2 months' salary. Okay, so those are real good incentives. Okay, so you're going to get a different result here. Well, what happened though was that the people offered the medium reward did no better than the people offered the small reward. But this time around, the people offered the top reward, they did worst of all. Higher incentives led to worse performance. What's interesting about this is that it actually isn't all that anomalous. This has been replicated over and over and over again by psychologists, by some extent by sociologists, and by economists, over and over and over again. For simple, straightforward tasks, those kinds of incentives, if you do this, then you get that, they're great. For tasks that are algorithmic, set of rules where you have to just follow along and get a right answer, if-then rewards, carrots and sticks, outstanding. But when the task gets more complicated, when it requires some conceptual, creative thinking, those kinds of motivators demonstrably don't work. In fact, money is a motivator at work, but in a slightly strange way. If you don't pay people enough, they won't be motivated. What's curious about, there's another paradox here, which is that the best use of money as a motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are 3 factors that the science shows lead to better performance. Not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this, almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter, on a Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want. You can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of those 24 hours in this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that that one day, of pure, undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I knew this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you can do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that had never emerged. Now, let's talk about mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You have all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun. Because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman, and I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling. I got this idea for a business model. I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, but they're willing to do it for free and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at you somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay? It seemed to fly in the face of so many things. But what do? You have Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers, Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of whom are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay? They have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing sophisticated technological work. And yet, during their limited discretionary time, they do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who look into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is a rise of what you might call the purpose motive. Is that more and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose. Partly because it makes coming to work better, partly because that's the way to get better talent. And what we're seeing now is, in some ways, when the profit motive becomes unmoored from the purpose motive, bad things happen. Bad things ethically sometimes, but also bad things just like not good stuff, like crappy products, like lame services, like uninspiring places to work. That when the profit motive is paramount, or when it becomes completely unhitched from the purpose motive, it just, people don't do great things. More and more organizations are realizing this and sort of disturbing the categories between what's profit and what's purpose. And I think that actually heralds something interesting. And I think that the organizations that are flourishing, whether they're profit, for profit, or somewhere in between, are animated by this purpose model. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the founder of Skype. He says, our goal is to be disruptive, but in the cause of making the world a better place. Pretty good purpose. Here's Steve Jobs. I want to put a ding in the universe. All right? That's the kind of thing that might get you up in the morning and racing to go to work. So I think that, that we are purpose maximizers, not only profit maximizers. I think the science shows that we care about mastery very, very deeply. And the science shows that we want to be self-directed. And I think that the big takeaway here is that if we start treating people like people and not assuming that they're simply horses, slower, smaller, better smelling horses, if we get past this kind of ideology of carrots and sticks and look at the science, I think we can actually build organizations and work lives that make us better off, but I also think they have the promise to make our world just a little bit better.
Okay. Reactions. Well, first of all, let's do the obvious. What did you observe? The 3 things. What are the three things that you point out?
Autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Right. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. All right. So how do you react to that?
kind of like, I mean, until he pointed out these are things that like I felt like were the reasons I was doing things. But I never put it to words, and well, you did because you had science to back it up.
Yeah, it seems to intuitively make sense, but we never look at it that way, right? So when we go and find a job, the most typical approach is to compare salary offer. So if you have 3 offers, you look at them, the first thing you compare between your 3 offers is the dollar amount, right? And we naturally get drawn to that because we've been told that the more money you make, the more successful you will be. So we end up picking careers and picking majors and picking jobs down the road based on how much money I'm gonna get out of it, right? So that's why there's a lot of unhappy people slaving through a 9-to-5 job and going home and trying to figure out what can I do to make up for a lousy day, right? They go to the bar, they do crazy things, they do stuff that they really enjoy after they get off work. But that's not the way to live your life. Now think about the 3 things that Daniel pointed out, and then correlate that with your past, your upbringing, your here and now, and what you're going to do in the future. How do you link all that together? Yes?
I believe all 3 are learned behaviors. And I don't know if you've seen they have another similar talk on education and how a lot of what these habits and these behaviors are kind of bred into us starting from a very young age, and that a lot of times the most successful people have to unlearn it before they're able to truly become successful in whatever field they're a part of.
So can you elaborate a little bit more about the unlearning aspect?
There's just so much, we could talk for a long time about what I think of education. But I mean, the biggest example is always the standardized testing. It's unfortunate, and it's even here at the collegiate level, we're still stuck on this kind of system of what you know and understand has to be represented on paper, otherwise you are worthless in this system. And a lot of times that's not in fact true. And I mean, granted, there are sometimes where that's very, very true. I'm sure there's all tests or papers that we've all worked on that we probably should have spent a little more time on. But there are so many different ways to show knowledge and mastery, even, that we just aren't measuring or accepting here in this kind of society.
Okay, that's a very good point. So when we're in school, we're looking at grades and passing the midterm and the final and get a grade. So in a sense, that is the wrong motivator. Just like when you go out and look for a job, the absolute dollar amount that you make every year is the wrong motivator. So that's a very good point. So think a little bit about just one of the 3 aspects, mastery. And we have talked about that it's a learned trait, right? It's a nurtured trait. So that definitely has something to do with your past. Can you now, at this point, think of at least 2 or 3 areas that you have mastery in? What's that?
I'd like to go back for a second because I'm not sure that autonomy, mastery, and purpose at their very rudimentary level are learned traits.
Okay.
I'd have to see some research, that would compel me to agree with that, because you look at very young children, even infants, when they start exploring their hand-eye coordination and their motor control. And of course, it's guided through teaching because we're a social species, but very young children have what seems like an instinctive impulse to be curious, to explore their surroundings, and to become more proficient at exploring their surroundings, even if it's just getting more proficient at putting things in their mouth and being able to identify them through, you know, their hand-to-mouth behaviors. So I'm not 100% sure that there's not, you know, an instinctive quality to it, and then it is further nurtured through education and socialization in children, for instance. I think a lot of times it's very natural, and then society actually crushes that in children. And, you know, if there were a little more hands-off and sort of guiding, like child-oriented learning, rather than you need to sit down still in a seat. Like, that's a big issue with education, is children being made to sit still, and they're classified as ADHD if they can't sit still, rather than allowing them to explore their environment in an observed but not necessarily overly controlled way, and seeing, you know, what tasks they would master on their own or questions they would ask, and that sort of environment is more nurturing, I think, to these conditions that we want to see in individuals.
Are you speaking on autonomy then, or a combination?
It could be I think it's a combination of all of them.
Because the autonomy I'm talking about is the go to work, you know, just kind of turn off autopilot. We see so many, especially students around us, undergrads, who have gotten course taking down to science. They've gotten to the point where, okay, if I do A, B, and C, I will get this grade in my courses. And that's the kind of autonomy I think that is negative. Obviously in this talk, I've seen it before, they're talking a little bit more about the being able to fulfill your own goals and kind of go for your own, follow your own ideas. But I think that a lot of times there are kind of negative behaviors that our education system especially is reinforcing, and include all that.
Well, I think one of the issues, like in the terminology, is that I wouldn't consider what you just described, going to work, you know, 9 to 5, punching in, punching out, not having free thought. That's not autonomy. That's in fact kind of the opposite of autonomy.
But that's what we've taught as autonomy. That is what.
Really, you come from a very different culture than that.
That's, I mean, all through elementary school, they teach us. They teach, you know, this is what you need to do. If you do this, you will.
They teach compliance, but I don't think compliance and autonomy, I wouldn't use them synonymously.
So I guess the term is autopilot. Right. You turn off your brain and you just go through the 9 to 5. And autonomy is the other way around. You turn on your brain, you decide what you want to do between 9 and 5. And I think that's the point that the movie clip point out, is that this company just turn it on for 24 hours and let the employees do whatever they want. And they solve a lot of problems with the autonomy, giving a free hands to the employees to do whatever they want. And the autopilot that you point out is like, let me turn off my brain. I just clock in and clock out, that kind of thing. So can you, one of you share with us what you're good at and how you become good at that particular thing? Let's start picking on quiet people now. You. Tell me what you're good at. Probably tennis, right?
I was actually, I don't play that much tennis. I was just playing tennis. Probably lose, but I'm pretty good at saxophone.
Okay, saxophone.
I grew up, I started playing in 5th grade, and then junior high through high school. I played a lot. I was in the jazz band, marching band, and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess that would fall into the mastery kind of thing. I listen to music, and then I'd go back and I'd play it, and I sounded nothing like the guys I was listening to. And it was really frustrating. And so then I would just go and practice, really grind it out, and slowly, probably, I mean, it was nowhere near the people I was listening to, but slowly I could kind of do some of the things they were doing, and kind of slightly get to those points that they were getting to. And that was really satisfying. That made me want to work harder. So it was kind of, I don't know, kind of cyclical, I guess, because once you taste a little bit, you want to get back at it and work on it. So yeah, definitely through music, I feel like I've experienced some of that self-directed autonomy, going and practicing it and trying to work out all my skills.
So mastery, in the sense that when you're good at something, you typically also like doing that something. Right? So the passion and the mastery almost go hand in hand, and they sort of overlap. if you're passionate about doing something, you naturally would spend a lot of time doing that. And when you spend a lot of time doing that, you become good at doing that. And once you master it, you enjoy it even more and become more passionate about what you're doing. Okay. Wouldn't it be good if you got paid to play sax for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
Yes?
I think for me the idea of autonomy and mastery kind of go hand in hand, as kind of you said. Every time someone tells me to do something, I tend to really not want to do it and really not master it. But when it comes to just giving me the options, oh, you know, what do you want to do? So for example, I started doing arts by myself. I never had a teacher, I never anything. At a very early age, I started just drawing. And then I think I'm good at it. I mean, I don't know how great I am, but never in my life had a teacher, and I just loved it so much. And never in my life my parents said, oh, you have to do it, oh, inter competitions or gallery exhibitions, stuff like that. And I just, I'm getting better and better at it, hopefully, thank God. But it's, for me, it's like, once you're autonomous, you tend to master it if you like it. But that's the only it's just passion.
So there's no pressure from parents
Yeah,
or teachers. You just have free hand to do whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So autonomy and mastery sort of come hand in hand too. Okay, very good. Pick on someone you tagged with, never said anything. Natasha. Tell us some example about maybe some experience, recently or even growing up in your childhood that you find a very strong sense of purpose on something.
When I was really little, I really liked solving puzzles, and I really liked math because I thought it was a puzzle. It was always cool to me. Solve problems and stuff. And growing up, I knew I wanted to go in the medical field, so I was like strict on that path, but I always liked math and stuff. And then when I went to community college, I started taking classes of economics, math, physics, all together, and I really liked biochem and math, right? And I thought, oh, what if I combine it, and then like I could incorporate the puzzle solving into the field I wanted to join. I found out engineering. And I really liked that part, and when I transferred to UCI and I joined a research lab, it was exactly what I was looking for, like puzzle solving in the field that I was applying. So it kind of drove my passion towards that. And being part of MDP, being part of research is kind of fueled me.
So that also points towards like the stuff that you want to do, your passion, and stuff you're good at, like solving puzzles and math, and that sort of develop and morph into a purpose for why you want to do this. Okay, very good. Anybody else who can contribute? A couple of personal stories, examples where throughout the course of your growing up or recent experience that you discover purpose. Yes, Bryce.
I guess when I was very young, my mom, she's not a professional artist, but she's very good at painting and drawing. And so when I was young, she would encourage my sister and I to draw with her as well. And no picture that we drew was ever a bad picture. I think it was very nurturing, very motivating. If someone tells you at a young age, oh, you're not doing it right, that can be very hurtful. And so to get that encouragement really made me want to draw and draw more. And so as I grew older and really got into like computers and things like that, then I got into like the digital arts. And I think my Photoshop skills today really come from my mother telling me to draw and being open to drawing whatever I wanted and being free with it. And that translating into the purpose I have today of, being able to design things that I wouldn't think about when I was a kid, but now today, like I have that skill set because of that autonomy of, I'm able to play around with this program. I'm able to, have my own canvas digitally. That's really something that I think stemmed from me as a child. So, yeah, that was really cool.
So great, thank you. So the nurturing part from your parent, your mom, particularly sort of grow your skills into mastery, and then that becomes something fun that you want to do, you have autonomy doing that, and now it becomes a purpose that you want to do, use that to develop something. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pick on you. What's your name? Tell us your name.
Jenny.
Jenny, okay. So I'm not sure whether you have watched the entire movie clip before.
I just came in. I just got back into class.
Okay, no problem. I'm still gonna pick on you anyway. So tell us why. Very important question. Why? What's the purpose of you being part of MDP?
Oh yeah. I just like research and being in a lab. That's first thing. Because I recently joined another research group last summer under the chemistry department. And before then, I was like a super study freak, always like a schoolgirl. But then, when I joined research and actually did a lot of biochemistry techniques, like I actually really applied what I've learned from my own lower division bio classes and chemistry classes into real life applications. Mm-hmm. And so I think that when I joined my previous research group, it kind of sparked me to want to pursue research and be in the lab even more. So that's why I applied to MDP so I can learn some more research techniques and skills, and then enhance my path, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your contribution, and sorry for picking on you. All right. How many of you, I know some of us here, have watched the clip by Steve Jobs? He gave a commencement address at Stanford several years back. And he talked about how to live before you die. Those who have watched that clip, can you say what impressed you the most about that clip?
I think what impressed me the most was his ideas of fear and of death as being a motivator, because everyone kind of wants to assume that whatever, I'm 22 years old and that is very far away. But at the same time, if you don't have that in the back of your head, then there's a motivation that isn't there. And that motivation is, with my life, everyone wants to be great, or everyone wants to do something, regardless of whether that something is. And if you don't have in the back of your head that there is a time limit, there is a time frame, and when you start thinking about that, unfortunately, you don't start thinking about that until the time frame is very small. Mm-hmm. When you can really grasp it when the time frame is still large, you really have an opportunity to do greatness and be motivated by many things. And one of them is you're not going to be here forever, so you better get it done now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have watched that clip? Something that jumped out at you? Yes, Natasha.
And before he dropped out of college, or he stopped taking classes within his major, he just started sitting in at different classes. And one of the classes he sat in was a calligraphy class. And then it was just pure interest that kind of drew him to take that class. And if he hadn't taken that class, he wouldn't have developed the text that we use for the computers right now. So it's just, it goes along with that autonomy side. He had the interest, no one was directing him to go take this class, you need to take this class to graduate. It was just because after he had dropped out, he decided he wanted to look into what other classes interested him and let him be sure down the line to develop something around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Most of us know that Steve Jobs dropped out of college, right? And the reason he dropped out is not because he flunked out. He actually did pretty well in college. He dropped out of college because he didn't feel that spending all that money that his parents gave him on college education that didn't seem to have a purpose in his life is worth it. He didn't feel that it's worth it. So instead, he went about and did something that he truly liked to do, calligraphy, for out of everything. He wanted to do that. And one thing led to another, it became the defining moment of his life. So those who have not watched it, I highly recommend you to Google search it. Very simple, Steve Jobs, Commencement address at Stanford, and the title of his address is How to Live Before You Die. The clip is very important and interesting because it came from the mouth of a person who had maybe less than a year to live. And he knew that when he was making that speech. It makes life so much clearer when you know that your life is ending. When you know that you don't have a whole lot left to do. All of a sudden, life purpose becomes very clear to him. And it would benefit us if we can grab onto that wisdom that comes from someone who is dying and looking back and saying what he would have done differently or what he would still do, knowing that he has only very little time left on earth. It gives us so much better if we can grab onto that wisdom and see if that would apply to your personal situation. I know that, like Chase pointed out, we still have 70 years ahead of us. Why think about death now, right? But if we think about death now as if we have only one day to live, all of a sudden life purpose becomes very, very clear. We know exactly what to do if I have only 24 hours to live. That gives us purpose in life. If we keep in mind that we're going to die one day, you're going to all of a sudden discover that there's a lot of stuff that we're doing today is meaningless, no purpose. And there's only a few things that have true meaning and true purpose in life, if you think in that mindset. So, homework assignment for all of you is that pretend that you have only 24 hours to live. What would that become of you for your life purpose? It's very important to keep in mind the three things. The mastery, which is shaped by our upbringing, and also our passion, right? And autonomy, if you're given a free hand, what you would like to do. And you have autonomy for the next 24 hours. You can do whatever you want. And that would become your purpose in life, right? And I'm not telling you to drop out now and go play saxophone, right? That's entirely up to you. You can do that if you want to do that. But think about that. It's what you're doing today. Everything. Spending every second, every minute, every hour, your moment. Does that lead to anything? It better have a purpose on how you spend your life. Because once today is gone, it's gone. When tomorrow comes, today becomes your past. It's very, very important. Death and time is the most universal equalizer for everyone. We all have to face that reality. So keep that in mind and develop your purpose, nurture your passion, develop space for your own autonomy to do what you like to do. Then you'll find life very rewarding. Any questions, comments about the homework? I'm not going to grade your homework. It's not a motivator to give you a grade. You don't even have to turn it in. Right? So the motivator is for you to go through that mental exercise to help yourself to be better at doing what you want to do. All right? So I'll turn the time back to Saeed.